to dismantle a cultural myth that you have probably heard your entire life. You know the one, right? The idea that you should just push through it or man up or keep a stuff upper lip. Well, we're going to tear that down today. And we're not just using opinions, we're using hard clinical science. We're going to look at what actually happens inside your body and your mind when you just try to tough it out. And honestly, I promise you, the results are going to surprise you. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the hidden cost of toughness, move into the science of suppression, compare being tough versus tough-minded, see what flexibility looks like in real life, and finally, talk about building emotional agility. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the hidden cost of toughness, or the whole cultural myth of keep calm and carry on. You know, society just deeply reveres the ability to white-knuckle our way through hardship. Keep calm and carry on. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Never let them see you sweat. These aren't just little catchphrases. They are woven completely into our collective psyche. We wear our ability to endure pain like it's some sort of badge of honor. But I want to ask you a really direct question. Is toughing it out actually destroying your health? Because psychologists see this all the time. People who do all the right, tough things, they power through burnout, they white-knuckle their way through toxic environments, they just swallow their grief, and yet they end up sitting in a therapist's office or a doctor's clinic feeling completely hollow, chronically exhausted, and physically sick. They did everything they were supposed to do to be strong, but it broke them anyway. So, why? Well, it actually comes down to this very specific behavior, emotional suppression. This is the habit of pushing down, ignoring, or consciously inhibiting your emotionally expressive behavior while you are emotionally aroused. Now, the key thing to remember here is that this is an active process. It's not just simply not having feelings. It is the exhausting internal effort of having a feeling and then forcefully holding it underwater. And as clinical data shows, chronic emotional suppression doesn't eliminate your distress, it just internalizes it. Moving right along to section 2, the science of suppression. Let's look at what's actually happening under the hood. Okay, check out this number, 24. To really see what happens biologically, we can look at a fascinating 2023 meta-analysis published by Alexandra Tyra and her colleagues. They synthesized data from 24 independent experimental laboratory studies. And this wasn't just a survey asking people how they felt on a given day. No, these were robust, controlled experiments tracking acute physiological stress reactivity in healthy populations. They put people in super stressful situations, like giving a sudden speech to a panel of judges or doing rapid mental math, and then hooked them up to physiological monitors. Look at the stark visual contrast here. Half the participants were allowed to just react naturally to the stressor. The other half were explicitly instructed to suppress their emotions, to not let absolutely anything show on their faces. And wow, the suppressed group showed massive, significant spikes in hemodynamic reactivity, meaning their blood pressure just shot up. They'd also showed greater neuroendocrine reactivity, specifically a huge release of the stress hormone cortisol. The active effort of suppressing their emotions actually made their physical stress far worse than the actual stressor itself. Crazy, right? So, to translate this heavy academic biology into something a bit more accessible, emotional suppression basically traps your body in a toxic threat state. Your body literally thinks it is in grave danger. And what happens? Your cardiac efficiency decreases. Your vasculature constricts, meaning your blood vessels actually narrow down, increasing total peripheral resistance. You also get this delayed but heavy release of cortisol. Essentially, your heart is working significantly harder, pumping against constricted vessels for absolutely zero physical payoff. It's exactly like slamming your foot on the gas pedal of your car while the parking brake is fully engaged. Over time, that is going to completely wreck the engine. Which brings us to section 3, tough versus tough-minded, the paradigm shift. So if the traditional version of being tough is biologically destroying us, what on earth is the alternative? Well, we need a massive paradigm shift from just being tough to being tough-minded. See, being tough relies on raw endurance through willpower and emotional suppression. It is rigid. Think of a massive, unyielding tree in a violent storm. It looks incredibly strong, right up until the exact moment the wind pressure becomes just too great and it snaps right in half. Tough-mindedness, on the other hand, is about resilience. It's about psychological flexibility. It's the tree that bends with the wind. It experiences the force of the storm, it yields to it, and because it bends, it remains standing long after the storm has passed. And that brings us to this cornerstone concept from acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, psychological flexibility. It's defined as the capacity to stay present with difficult thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them while moving towards what matters most. Now, this is the true marker of resilience. Notice that it doesn't say a single thing about eliminating difficult thoughts. No, it's about fundamentally changing our relationship with the pain. It asks a much better question. What does this situation actually need from me right now? So let's make this practical. Section 4, flexibility in real life. Scenario grounding. Let's see how all this builds by dropping these academic concepts directly into our daily lives. We are going to look at 3 very relatable real-world personas to contrast the old way versus the new way. We've got Sarah the professional representing the workplace, David the parent representing the home, and Maria the patient representing the physical body. Let's see how the tough approach and the tough-minded approach play out for each of them. First up, Sarah the professional. She just got passed over for a major promotion. The old tough approach dictates that she just sucks it up, works even harder, and completely suppresses her disappointment. So she doubles down on her hours, but inwardly, she is absolutely seething with resentment. Within 6 months, she's emotionally numb and heading straight for total burnout. But now look at the tough-minded approach. Sarah allows herself to really sit with that disappointment. She acknowledges the pain. And because she isn't wasting all of her energy trying to suppress the sting, she can objectively reflect on her values. Does she want this specific title, or does she really just want to make a meaningful impact? Figuring that out allows her to have an honest, productive conversation with her manager and make authentic, values-driven career moves. Next up is David the parent. His teenage son is dealing with severe anxiety. Now, David's own upbringing taught him to deal with emotions by just being strong. So his tough approach is to tell his son to toughen up and stop overthinking everything. David feels super uncomfortable with tears, so he avoids them entirely. But here's the thing, he isn't modeling strength. He's modeling emotional avoidance. His son simply learns to hide his struggles. The tough-minded approach, however, requires David to have the immense courage to confront his own discomfort. Instead of running away from his son's distress, he sits with him right in the middle of it. He validates the emotion, because true tough-mindedness builds resilience through deep connection, not isolating suppression. And finally, there's Maria the patient. She has just been diagnosed with a chronic illness. Her tough approach is to fight it tooth and nail. She refuses to slow down, pushes through physical flare-ups, and tells absolutely everyone she is fine. She shuts people out, which leads to severe physical deterioration and intense isolation. And this brilliantly illustrates how fighting a physical reality is just an unwinnable war. The tough-minded approach? Acceptance. And that doesn't mean giving up, it means acknowledging reality exactly as it is. Maria grieves her old life, figures out what matters most to her now, like creativity and connection, and asks for help to build a sustainable life. Acceptance frees her up to invest her energy where it actually matters. All right, we are in the home stretch. Section 5, building emotional agility. Let's get to some actionable takeaways. So how do we bridge all these observations with a concrete framework that you can literally start using today? The crucial point is this 4-step process outlined by Harvard Business Review experts Susan David and Christina Congleton. It teaches us how to stop getting hooked by undesirable thoughts and emotions. Step 1. Recognize your patterns. Notice when your thinking becomes really rigid and repetitive. Step 2. Label them objectively. Bring objectivity into the mix by calling a thought a thought. Say, I am having the thought that I am failing, instead of I am a failure. See the difference? Step 3. Accept them with compassion. Don't suppress them. Pay attention to them with an open attitude. And finally, Step 4. Act on your values. Once you unhook yourself from the rigid emotion, your choices totally expand. You can decide to act in a way that truly serves you in the long run. Before we go, I want to leave you with this really powerful summary quote. True strength isn't about feeling nothing. It's the kind that bends without breaking. If you have been running on tough for a long time and you are starting to feel the cracks in your armor, please know that this is not a sign of weakness. Those cracks are an invitation. They're an invitation to develop a much deeper, far more sustainable kind of strength. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to challenge you with a slightly provocative thought. Where in your life are you standing rigid, and where could you afford to bend? Really think about the situations causing you the absolute most stress right now. Are you white-knuckling your way through them, spiking your blood pressure for zero payoff? Or can you lean into some psychological flexibility, accept the reality of the moment, and move toward what actually matters to you? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this fascinating science. Stay curious, stay flexible, and I'll see you in the next explainer.